Hey there, I'm Sammy and welcome back to my channel. In this week's video, I'm going to be flipping close to, if not the most beautiful piece I have got my hands on, and I cannot wait to share with you guys, so let's jump right into it. This is the piece we are starting off with. She is really elegant, but not in the best shape, so I want to fix that. Structurally, this piece is doing okay, but it needs some help. The back corner was definitely water damaged and swollen, so needed to fix that. The drawers are in decent shape, but I will be lining them. Overall, this piece has a lot of work to be done. A few things to note here. Number one, he obviously would like to play. Number two, it's cold. Okay. Number three, do you think I can save this dresser? When I purchased this dresser, I did not realize it was this damaged. So I didn't even realize that this was a laminate top. I was hoping to maybe refinish this. That is not happening. The top is laminate. Most everything else is wood. This is pressed wood. That's a no-go. And the laminate is a little warped and it's pressed wood underneath that, and water has gotten in there and it's a bit swollen on the back corner, so it's started to expand. And getting that back down, that is a trick. So a lot of things gotta work out in this flip for me to be able to save it. Another thing I'm doing is I am keeping the hardware. I'm keeping the hardware, guys. And some of you might not like it. I actually love it, and I think it adds a lot to this piece. It's really unique, and I think it should stay. Oh boy, but there's some more to be done. Okay. Options for this corner here. Not a lot of them. All right, here's going out with a bang. Replace the whole top. I'm not doing that. Two, I thought about putting some glue in here, putting a good clamp on it, clamping it, and it does clamp down, but it's not completely flat. Option number three, you might think I'm crazy for this. Rip off this corner and replace it. I ended up deciding to take out some of that pressed wood inside so that I could toss some glue in there and clamp it down and it would be flat. Otherwise, it would have had a bump to it if I left all that existing wood in there. So here I'm just scraping some excess out. I think that might work. Okay, so I've cleaned this out a little bit and it still looks it looks absolutely horrible still. But I can get some glue in there, clamp it down, and then fill what I need to with Bondo, and I think that will work. I tossed some glue in there with my little spatula, made sure that the whole area inside was covered so that all of it would be compressed and glued together. The next day, I let this sit overnight just to be sure. And ladies and gentlemen, here's what we're gonna do. All right, there's a few areas that need to be filled, including this corner. I'm gonna mix up some Bondo, get those filled, and then we're gonna get to sanding. And I have some really exciting news. Can't tell you yet, it's a secret. Okay, there's only a few areas. This needs quite a bit of filling here. So I have my Bondo, and I'm gonna mix it a little bit at a time. We'll fill it, put some tape over that so it stays in this little hole here. And then I have a few other, I can only see one other spot. He stole my box. So I'm filling this area as well as I can with Bondo, and then I'm placing some tape over it so it's nice and smooth once it dries and it's a little bit easier to sand. And then I'm just filling any other areas that need to be filled with Bondo.
I know.
Yeah, warm me up.
Oh gosh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Did you go out there and rub up your box? You did? You need your mess and then lawn.
I know I always find something to complain about because it's either too hot or too cold. I just like to complain about things, but it's really cold. And I usually have the problem of it being too hot and my Bondo and glue drying like too quickly. Mostly the Bondo because you gotta work so quick because it will dry before you even get it to the surface you want to apply it to. But now I'm having the issue of it not drying quick enough. So while I wait forever for that to dry, I don't even know if it's gonna be done by the time I'm doing this. Anyways, we're gonna try. I'm gonna go ahead and sand these drawers. Now, keep in mind, I'm painting everything and I'm holding myself to it, not sanding it all the way down. Sometimes it just gets to me that it's an uneven surface and I end up sanding it all the way down, but I'm not doing that because I don't have time for it. So I'm going in with my Festool sander, my square Festool sander. I've got a 150 grit on this. I'm gonna go over the surface. We just want to give it a scuff sand, something that will help that primer and that paint adhere to it rather than this nice smooth surface that it has right now. I will also be going in with a really good primer that's going to adhere to any surface even if we miss a spot, because I'm not even going to worry about sanding these little grooves on this. I'm just going to go over it roughly, get what I can, and then we'll give it a good clean, and the primer is really going to do the job for us in adhering to that surface so that when we go to apply that paint, it's got a nice good application that's adhering to the surface and it's going to last a while. So yeah, that's all the mumble jumble I wanted to get out to you. Yeah, let's get to sanding. I didn't record it, but while I was sanding this one, I noticed that it was coming apart at the joint. So I opened that up, I put some glue in there, and it's just resting on the side right now. I put a kettlebell on it to keep that pressure while that dries, and then that drawer will be fixed. What I am going back in and doing to all of the drawers is I'm sanding the edges because they just look a little gross. And this is a old dresser and it's been through something. I don't know what, but something. I don't want it to look super nice on the outside and then have someone like open the drawer and the sides look gross and as old as they should look, you know? But my point is, I'm gonna sand the edges. They look really gross and they've got a lot of grime on them, and I might even paint this edge, make it a nice crisp clean line. I'm sanding 150 grit, sand the edges real quick, then we'll move on with our lives. Alright, well, if you just saw what I did there, I added some glazing spot putty. Now this is for small areas that you want to fill. So any small areas, little pinholes, porous areas. This is a Bondo, but it is not the same as a Bondo. This dresser and these drawers might have looked good at one point in their life. Today is not that day, and we need to fix that. So it is extremely porous. This is all pressed wood, and the worst areas of this are pressed wood, and it is just crumbling in some of these areas. Exhibit A, the corners that we fixed earlier, that was just crumbling apart. So are some of these. Not quite like totally falling apart, but it's just extremely porous, and it's just not gonna look great if you just toss some paint over that. So I will be using a filler primer, but that's really gonna get minimal, little teeny tiny areas, and it's gonna fill that. This will really fill this porous pressed wood, and that's what we want. So I'll bring it in close so you can really see this, and it's gonna make a really big difference. It's a mess in here, I know. We're gonna jump around like crazy for just a minute while that's drying. Number one, I had to go make some hot cocoa because it's so cold. Let's have a chat. Number one, we finished filling the areas on the drawers. That needs to dry. Two, as you can see, I've peeled off, well, it was already starting to peel. The edge banding here was coming off. I started ripping it and it broke off right here. And so if you have a piece of edge banding that is starting to peel off, number one, you could try to glue it back down, or you could rip it off, and sometimes it will rip the whole thing off. In that case, it depends on what kind of products you have. If you have that red Bondo that I was using earlier, it's usually gonna be a porous wood underneath that edge banding because they put that edge banding there for a reason, to cover up something. So what you can do is fill in that porous area with that spot Bondo that we used earlier. You may need like 2 coats, maybe 3. Usually 2 does it for like really porous areas. Sand that down and it will be nice and smooth if you're gonna paint over that. Or you can do what I do and you can rip it until it breaks, and you want to find that breaking point to where it's still attached to the piece. If you have any part of that that is still lifting, that's going to cause problems. It's going to want to keep lifting and peel off later on, and we don't want that. So I ripped it off until it no longer can peel off. It's nice and smooth, nothing's lifting. Now I'm going to go in there with our traditional wood filling Bondo, the 2-part mixture, and I'm going to fill this area, make it nice and smooth, so it's kind of like a gradual taper until it gets to the edge here. So hot cocoa first. We don't want a lot. Then I went back in with my square Festool sander and finished scuff sanding the entire dresser. Are you guys ready for my Christmas surprise? I would like all of you to welcome the new addition to the family. I have been a Ryobi lover. That is my favorite orbital sander. I use it all the time. That is like my sander. It was the only sander I used to have, and I used it for everything, and I made it work, and I grew to love it so much. I heard so many good things about the Festool brands. I also heard Surf Prep, but you know, too many people out there have the Surf Prep, and I feel like Festool is the way to go. So I have had the Festool Square Orbital Sander for a while now, and I love it. It's great. However, it's not the same as a round orbital sander. So I still use my Ryobi one. I've been wanting the Festool one. I finally have it. Thanks to my wonderful boyfriend. Thanks. So excited to use it. I haven't used it before, so y'all are witnessing the first time I'm using this. This is the round orbital sander. It is 125 rec. I don't know what that means, but I will link it down below if you're interested in checking it out because they have so many different models. Going in with this on the top surface, this is a good place to start, test it out, and get a feel for it. So let's go do this.
If you can't tell, I was quite blown away by how powerful this sander was and its technology, and I can't wait to share more of it with you guys.
Dare I say, that's the best sander I've ever used. Dare. I said dare. I'm sorry. I can't let Ryobi hear me. I don't want to give her up that quick, but oh my gosh. I've never been so amazed with a tool before in my life. Okay, anyways, best sander I've ever used in my life. You need to go get yourself one. I don't know what I've been doing this whole time because it's literally changing my life. I need to collect myself.
Then I finished the last of the scuff sanding that needed to be done on the dresser base.
It's so much warmer out today, which I'm so thankful for. So I'm really glad that I didn't end up getting this primed yesterday because it's going to be much better to prime and paint this in the sunshine and the warmth for a couple of reasons. Number one, it is going to dry so much faster, even though it's I think it's like 15 degrees warmer today, but the sun is really shining. That will help us too. But number two, I'm going to be spraying this with aerosol cans of a special primer, and I'm also going to be spraying the paint on with my spray gun, but aerosol spray cans have a good chance of dripping. Oh, leave. If you're not careful when you spray. But what makes that worse is if it is cold and it turns that dry time into a longer period of time, giving it a better chance to have a drip. We want to avoid that as much as we can. So having it dry a little bit quicker will avoid those chances of having more drips and runs. I hope you can hear me. It is so windy out right now, so it is warm thankfully, but we're going to have to spray this in between wind sessions because it comes and goes. So yeah, I think that's it, so let's get to it.
As always, going in with my air compressor, blowing everything off, getting a majority of that dust off before I put the drawers inside the unit. Going in with a rag and some water and just giving everything a good wipe down to collect any dust remaining on the surface.
So one by one, I'm going to go through each of these drawers, tape off the edges, and I'm going to tape off this hole because I'm going to be spraying it and I don't want any spray through to get through this hardware hole and get inside and make a mess. So we're going to put a piece of tape there, and I'm going to tape around the edge so I have a nice clean line there. I'm going to have to go in and hand paint this, or I don't know, we'll see. I may pull it out just for a sec to paint that. We'll see if my sprayer will allow that without making a mess, but I'm just going to tape off these edges really quickly, and then we'll get a primer on it. Alright, we're going to get to priming now. We're going to use two different primers. Number one, all-time favorite, This is Bullseye 123 Primer. This is in the gray. This is in the spray can. This is going to be really good for adhering to any surface, including surfaces you have not sanded. That's why I'm using it on this piece, because there's definitely areas like little tiny grooves that I didn't sand because I didn't want to mess with them. Primer number 2. There's lots of porous areas on this dresser, so I'm going in with a filler primer. This is actually an automotive primer in a spray can. Really easy to use, no mess, really smelly though. Wear your masks. This is going to be good for those porous areas. I'm going to go in anywhere where there is fine little tiny holes or, like I said, porous areas, and it's going to fill those slightly. Once we get this primed, we'll see if there's any other imperfections. We'll be able to fill those and then go from there. I'm going to be painting this a darker color, so these gray primers will help out with that slightly versus a white primer, which is a little bit harder to cover up, but again, I really don't have issues with that. I use a lot of Behr paint, and it's pigmented. So we're gonna get this on here. It's gonna dry really quickly because it is nice outside today. I can't wait for that. So let's get a roll on it. Okay, well, I think if you can even hear me, all of my neighbors have either decided to mow their lawn, get their roof replaced, or dig up their front lawn today. So that's what you're hearing. And Melina. But I have work to do. So, alright, here we go, quiet time. After we prime, it shows a lot of the imperfections. There are some tiny spots that didn't get quite filled with the Bondo and other filler that we use, so we're going back in with this, our little spatula. We're gonna fill that really quick, and then we'll sand it once more before we go in with our paint color. Got it? Hope you heard me.
Now it's time for paint, and this is my all-time favorite paint color now. It is so beautiful, so rich, so deep. I just love everything about it. So enjoy this painting process here because it is also so satisfying.
Okay, quickly before I go spray this top coat on, we have 2 coats of paint on here. I'm going in with a top coat. As always, I'm painting this a dark color, so I dumped out the excess paint that was left in here. I left that residue in here. I poured in my top coat and I mixed it really well so that top coat would blend with the leftover paint that was in here. That's going to help us with less streaking. It's going to apply a little bit easier, give more of a seamless look. Going on, spraying a top coat can be a little harsh when it's a dark color like this. A lot of times you can see the lines with your sprayer, so if you mix in that dark paint, it helps minimize that. I'm going to go ahead and get a coat on this. The sun is setting real quick. It's 5 o'clock, you'll notice too, I took the drawers out because I wanted to spray the inside edges of this, make that look nice and clean. I'm going to spray this really quickly with the top coat, let it dry, get the drawers back in, and spray those. Let's go. I'm completely obsessed with this paint color. Like, I feel like the camera isn't doing it justice. This color is, it's just, like, it's so deep and rich and moody. I love moody colors. I will say, the second I sprayed this color, I was like, obsessed with it. I love it. It's probably one of my favorite colors right now. But I do feel like the right person will need to buy this dresser because of the color that I painted it. And that's okay. I guess you just want to expect that when you're thinking about painting your furniture a certain color. So like right now I'm having a really hard time selling anything. I have furniture that has been in our spare room for well over 6 months, probably closer to like 10 months, and some of which I've had absolutely 0 messages. So one of them I did just change the hardware on and I relisted it, and yes, I've tried everything. One of them I redid. I showed you guys that video. Nothing. So I'm having just a really hard time in general. I don't know if it's just like the season, but I feel like it's been this way for a while for me. So I have, my goal now has kind of switched, because really I didn't really think about what my market wanted necessarily. I thought about the way I want things to look. Like I do this because I enjoy it, and I redo furniture how I think it will look best. Do I try to sometimes make it so other people will like it? Of course. But majority of the time it's a color I pick out because I love it, or it's a hardware I pick out because I love it. I pick pieces of furniture that I like to redo. Sometimes, yeah, I'll just like redo a piece to see what I can do with it. But I'm kind of just in a rut, and besides this piece, my main focus now, I've had this piece for a while, and I've had this color in mind for a while, so I needed to do it. But my goal, I think going forward, has been to kind of please my market, because I can't keep doing this and not selling the furniture, and I'm sure there are some of you out there that know how I feel. So this piece was for me. Hopefully somebody will love it as much as I do. Enough chitty chat though for now. Let's get back to this because I gotta show you this hardware. And once again, I didn't show you how I cleaned it. I'm sorry. But there are a few things we need to do to this though. 1, obviously I need to get this hardware on. 2, I'm gonna be adding drawer liners inside these drawers. And 3, I do need to go in and touch up some of this paint because there's areas that got missed around the drawer edges, and I wanted to be really precise about those. Before I touch that up, I do want to get the hardware on so they're easy to pull in and out, and then we'll go from there. So now that we have the hardware in, we can easily pull the drawers in and out as we work on them and touch up any paint that needs touched up. So I just have my little can of paint in here. I've got a detailed brush here that I'm gonna go in with, touch anything up that I need to, and then we'll let everything sit and dry, and once it's dry, we'll go ahead and line all the drawers.
So this was a little bit time consuming for me. I did a total of 2 coats. I did the tops as well as the sides of this, and it took me a minute, but it was well worth it in the end.
while all of that is drying, nothing needed touched up on the top 3 drawers. So I'm gonna go ahead and start lining the drawers with the drawer liner. Going in with this drawer liner, I've used this many times. It is my all-time favorite liner. It's actually a wallpaper, but the material is my favorite, as well as this pattern, and I think it's gonna go, it just matches the tone, the moodiness, everything. It's just, I love it. So why not toss it in there? Because the inside of these drawers are not in the best looking condition. The bottom of these are not real wood, so lining them is also going to just make them look a little bit higher quality. So that's exactly what we're gonna do.
So I start with the corner, I peel that back, and then I peel along one whole edge so that I'm able to line that up with one edge and get that pressed down and straight up against the drawer. Then I peel the remaining backing off and use my little scraper to smooth everything down so it's nice and secure. Lastly, I grab my little X-Acto knife, go along the edge, cut off any excess, and you are left with a nice clean line. And I repeated this process on all of the drawers. But as always, before we end this, let's go back to the beginning to take a look at what this dresser looked like when we started. She was not in the best shape. It needed some help. It had a lot of damage, but was still such an elegant piece. And now we can truly appreciate what we are ending up with.
Thank you all so much for watching. I hope that you really enjoyed this video. I had a lot of fun making this piece over, and I'm so pleased with the way that it turned out. Believe it or not, I had this listed on Facebook Marketplace for less than a day and it was sold. So some pieces just surprise you. As always, I will leave a list of my most used tools and products, as well as a profit breakdown in the description below. Go check it out if you're interested. But as for now, I'll see you in the next video. Bye!